started. We got quite a bit of public comment, so I'll try to keep it on time for everybody today. Troy, are there any announcements? Okay. Let's go ahead and get started with public comment. I'm going to start with you, Penny, from the comment that we received via email.
I just received one email. It is from Rebecca Robbins, and she states, "The Wichita ice rink is such a blessing to our city. It keeps so many kids out of trouble and busy having a great time on skating, figure skating, playing hockey, etc. I am praying that you find the right people to run it and continue to take care of this place. Thank you."
Thank you. I'll just go down. Got a couple pages here. We'll start with page 1 and Brian Goff. Sorry, go ahead.
So since we actually have a presentation, do we do that public comment during it?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So it's all...
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's approve the minutes. No minutes available at this time, but as always, you can find the URL if you'd like to see previous meetings on the agenda. New items. First tee land lease.
All right, can you guys hear me? Yes, all right. So I have a quick item for the board. When we did our agreement with First Tee to put in a physical building over at McDonald, what we ended up doing was we had a clause in there that was for 10 years and then an additional 10 years if we wanted to continue the agreement and working with them. They have come and asked if we can make an adjustment, a small adjustment that would actually state that the agreement would be for 20 years. And the reason why is because they're doing fundraising as well as they're doing construction and needing a loan, I do believe, and also for the banking purposes. So we wanted to change the wording from 10 years and an additional 10 years to a total of 20 years. I worked with the our legal staff, and they came up with the language, and from the staff's perspective, we totally support it. So just wanted to take it to the board for your guys' vote. I have Mr. West here if you want to share any thoughts, or did I cover everything correctly?
Well, except I think that we're under the assumption that there's options beyond the 20 years.
Sure.
That's correct, too.
Yes, that is correct as well. From our perspective, we see this as a very long-lasting partnership and working with them for a long time, not just for 20 years, not just for 30 years, but for quite a long time, as long as we have golf playing at McDonald.
Are there any questions for Troy or Tom?
So we do need a vote, and then we're going to get a new signature page with the changes for you to sign.
Okay. I would move to approve the amendments made to the land lease contract with First Tee. Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? See none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Now we can do the Ice Center Management Agreement.
All right, so I'm going to do share some of the highlights and proposal, and then I think after that there's public comment to come with that, and then discussion and whatnot. So a little bit more information. The Wichita Center Management Services. So from the staff's perspective, we were looking at this and we had opportunity to work with the committee. And so what we're going to ask is for approval of the management services agreement with Rink Management Services for the management of the daily operations of the Ice Rink Center. A little bit of a background. So the Ice Center has been around since 1996, and it's been a huge part of this community, doing many different activities and a lot of different programs. In 2006, Rink Management Services was awarded a contract for the ice rink until it expired in March of 2011. In 2011, Genesis took over the management. They were awarded the contract for the management services. Okay, so upon the contract coming up to end here this month, which is going to be at the end of January, staff wanted to look at what kind of options we have out there, just like what we do for any kind of RFP that's providing services. So we did a request for proposal of services and put it back out to see if there's any other management services that would be interested in operating the ice rink. What we were really looking for was somebody who had a lot of ice experience, somebody who knows the programming and can communicate very well with the stakeholders. And so those are some of the things that we really were looking for when we put out the request for proposal. So we had two firms propose, and we had Rink Management Services, and we also had Genesis to provide proposals, which they actually provided proposals and presentations to the committee. So interviews were provided for both on November 12th, and a committee that was comprised of stakeholders and of staff sat down and listened to the two proposals, and from that we concluded that Rink Management Services was a strong candidate, and that's what we wanted to move forward with. They provide management to many facilities across the country, and Rink Management Services can take over the operations and pretty quickly. So considerations, financial considerations. The fee is going to be $6,500 a month. The city will provide and monitor and account for all the revenues and expenses with Rink Management Services, or also known as RMS. The city will be responsible for any repairs over $5,000, and repairs that are less than $5,000 will be performed by RMS through the operating fund, and very similar to what we do with other agreements. Financial records will be available upon request. The annual audit will be conducted. It's going to be for a 5-year contract with an option for 5-year renewal. The law department has reviewed the proposal, and we're currently finalizing the contract. There's a few more details that was really kind of interesting through our negotiations, and we were able to negotiate that the first year we're not going to hold RMS responsible for any losses, but if years 2, 3, 4, and 5 there are losses, it will be balanced against the monthly fees. So that's pretty exciting. We also know that they're going to be working with us in regards to creating a capital improvement plan. And they also have a really neat system for managing and monitoring all the rink maintenance, which is something that we really need to make sure that we stay on top of. So those are some of the things that we really, really liked about Rink Management Services. So the committee all was very much supportive of Rink Management Services, and several of those folks are here now. I'm sure they'll speak during the public comments. So that's the end of my presentation.
Any questions for Troy?
I have a question. I know this was before your time, but why didn't we go with Rink Management? Or what did Genesis do to win the contract in 2011?
So yes, way before my time, my understanding is that Rink Management Services did an adequate job, and I think it was the end of that contract, and so Genesis came out and said that they could do a better job. And I actually watched that the other day. That was about a week ago. I sat and watched. It was Mr. Ferris giving the presentation, and he suggested that they could do a much better job, and that since they were local, they would be a lot more receptive and responsive.
Is Rink Management local now?
No. But that's kind of an interesting question, because obviously the staff is going to be local. The folks that operate it are local. Their headquarters is not local. But this happens across the country with a lot of different companies as well. So.
Okay, I was just asking.
Yep.
Any other questions for Troy before we open it up to public comment? Alejo?
Yeah, Troy, I got a couple questions. I know that we've faced some challenges with the center. How is this agreement going to protect the city and ensure that the center stays as a high-quality space for our community to use?
So as I mentioned, one of the things that we're looking for is to make sure that we had somebody who is very knowledgeable in ice and ice programming. So that's kind of one of the first steps we wanted to make sure that happens. We looked at rink management services and checked their references. The references are pretty strong. We want to make sure we have good communication with stakeholders as well as with rink management services, which I think we will have. In the contract itself, as I mentioned, there's some things that protect us. So there's a 90-day clause where we can actually end the contract. There could be some penalties with that. But if it's something that needs to change. We can pull out of the contract if we need to. So seems like it's a very fair and honest contract, especially because the first year, because there's so many variables, we weren't going to hold them accountable for any losses. But year 2, 3, 4, and 5, we're going to hold them accountable for losses as well. So I think that also puts pressure back onto the city in regards to making sure that we put money into the capital improvement plan so we can address a lot of the issues. Over the past 3 years, when we had the chiller go down, some other things go down, we've spent close to $2 million into the facility, and it still needs some more care.
And another question, obviously the staff currently is not city staff, but did rink management provide a plan for how they were going to staff the space?
There's representatives here from Rink Management Services. They could probably answer that question better than I can, but my understanding is that they will work with them, ask them if any of the current employees are interested in working, and not necessarily guarantee that they're going to hire them, but they would definitely be interested in finding out more about them.
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
Just curious, what did the financial considerations look like from the Genesis Group?
so yes, that's a very good question, because actually Genesis made a very, very good offer that the annual fee was going to be less than $1,000, and that they were going to provide $500,000 of capital into the facility.
Thank you. Chris?
Could you go into a little bit more detail when you talk about how the losses would work? Basically, after year one, that if there are losses, let's say operating costs are $4,000 in a month, they will necessarily forfeit. Is that basically how that works? If they can't generate the revenue that we're expecting?
So we're looking at the general overhead, utilities, labor costs, all those things. That balances against all the revenues that come in for programming, daily operations, all that kind of stuff. So the revenue versus expenses, P&L, profit loss. So if there is a loss the first year, the city will take care of that loss. We're not expecting that to be very much. I think in the past, when we're looking at rink management services back in 2004, 5, and 6, I think the first 2 years they actually brought a profit to the city, and then there was a loss. Not a very large loss, I think it was somewhere about $10,000. So years 2, 3, and 4, and 5, if there's a loss, that's going to balance against the annual fee. So the annual fee is $6,500, which that comes out to $78,000 a year. So we can deduct from that to balance the losses.
Got it.
And if there's a loss, I don't expect it to be more than $10,000. If there's net revenues, that's probably not going to be more than $10,000 or $15,000. But that goes back into the facility. So this is all about making sure that we balance the expenses with the revenues, and making sure that we have really quality priced, right priced programs. So the more programs you have, the less you can offer them for. So.
On that note, as a follow-up question, do you anticipate or can you speak to any adjustments in user fees? Can you speak to any adjustments in, maybe this might be a question that's more appropriate for the presenters today, any expansion or decline in services? Anything that you can speak to on that?
So we definitely expect more services. We expect higher quality of services. We expect more revenue from different generating revenue opportunities. So like I mentioned, the more that they program, the less the cost is going to be per program. So I really don't see a big change in regards to the pricing for the programs. And if they are, it's going to be very small.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Real quick, Troy, what was Genesis's fee the last 10 years? Were they paying anything?
Yeah, we paid them, it changed every few years. It started off at $42,000. Currently, we pay them $55,000 a month, $55,000 a year, I'm sorry.
I was like, am I in the wrong?
Yeah,
Gotta get in that rink management.
yeah.
Thank you.
Troy, I got a question, another question. You mentioned earlier that we're going to ensure that, we hear from stakeholders to make sure that, that the facility is being ran appropriately and at a high standard. How are we going to do that moving forward that is different than previous years? Have we discussed that? Or did we discuss that with rink management?
So one of the points that we're going to make sure that we work with Rink Management Services is that there is regular meetings put in place. I think now, more than ever, we have a stronger relationship with the stakeholders. In fact, I think in the past few months, I've probably have talking to them on a regular basis, if not weekly. Well, not daily, but, almost weekly. So I think we have a keen understanding of what they want and what they expect. And that's my job, is to make sure that that happens. So, and if rink management can't do it, then we'll find somebody else. But we got to give them the opportunity, I think.
Sure. And I guess that was, is there something in there that, in the contract that says that they have to regularly hold those meetings? Or is it just staff-led, staff-driven, pushing that forward?
So I haven't seen the latest version of the draft.
Sure.
But something that we proposed, that we wanted to see that in the contract. I don't know, I can't tell you whether it's in there for sure or not.
Sure.
But beyond that, though, it's nice to have that in the contract. But if it's not, there's definitely things that we can do, that the owners and overseeing the contract, that we can make sure that that happens.
Sure.
So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Troy before we open it up to public comment? See none. Thank you, Troy. We'll get started with Brian Goff here. What's that? Yeah, let's try to keep it to about 3 minutes if you
Understand, no
Thanks.
problem. Hello, everyone. It's glad to see some familiar faces out there. As my name was mentioned, my name is Brian Goff. I am the current general manager of the Wichita Ice Center. I took over as GM during COVID. Everyone knows how bad that was back in the day. Still dealing with it now. Since that time, we've hired a new maintenance director, new hockey director, and I don't believe anyone has had a complaint about me or my new staff. I've taken great pains to improve communication between the city and the Ice Center. I believe this has been accomplished. The city has not asked me for anything that I do not believe they have received. Further, the Ice Center is operating with a profit in spite of COVID, and since the city is responsible for any losses, this is very important, as you all know. Prior to COVID, and then of course, those of you that have been involved, y'all know about the couple years, the loss of the ice plant, the center had made a profit with the city for every year. This money went back into the Ice Center, not to Genesis. But prior to Genesis management of the Ice Center, there were several straight years of losses. I've looked over the finances, been very involved with them. I have very big passion about this ice rink. But this includes operations of the proposed Ice Center manager. During the period operated by management firms from outside of Wichita, you're looking at a loss of nearly $400,000 that added up in totals in operations. While management companies have some advantages, they don't have much incentive to save the city money. So on that, the Ice Center will also require hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment over the next several years. This money will come from the Parks and Rec Capital Improvement Fund, if I'm understanding correctly. Compare that to the Genesis proposal, who offered over $600,000 in capital expenses as approved by the city. This proposal also had a no loss to the city provision. No loss at all. All losses were going to be absorbed by Genesis, not the city. So with all that and the time that I've been there, I have enjoyed everything I'm doing. I've enjoyed the relationship I built with the city, and I hope to continue to do this. So just wanted to let everyone know, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Brian. Jolene Taylor.
In high school speech, they tell you it's important to have props, so I have my prop today. I'll keep this short. This is a statement that I read before the city council earlier this year, and so I am restating that here. I have worn many hats in figure skating over the past 20 years here in Wichita, but today I'm speaking to you as a concerned citizen, as a member of the local organizing committee. Do I have to wear my mask? No? Okay. As a member of the local organizing committee for the past 2 synchronized skating competitions we hosted in Wichita, and the National Theater on Ice competition we are planning to host again this June. I'm gonna get hot. And as a board member and the membership chair of the Wichita Figure Skating Club. Well, it's great to promise money to the Ice Center. There's something very important, actually something more important, good management. Under Genesis management over the past 10 years, the figure skating program has suffered greatly, and much of the building has been neglected. We all know about the chillers, and this took several months to repair and was a great cost to the city. Multiple general managers have come and gone, many who have no experience or knowledge of ice sports. Membership in the Wichita Figure Skating Club has decreased by more than 50%, and this was pre-COVID. And we are still without a much-needed skating director. Genesis implemented 10 years ago an unrealistic payment structure that takes almost 50% of a coach's private lesson fee, causing our experienced coaches to leave Wichita and preventing qualified coaches from coming here. Many times we have pleaded with Genesis to change this to be more in line with other ice rinks in the Midwest without success. This has caused our skaters to seek lessons in other cities, traveling to Kansas City, Tulsa, Dallas, Nebraska. Years ago, we expressed our goals to host large figure skating competitions using both the Wichita Ice Center and Intrust Bank Arena. Since then, we have done just that and teamed up with the Wichita Sports Commission and Visit Wichita to host the largest competition United States figure skating has, bringing thousands of skaters and their families to Wichita. These competitions have brought millions of dollars to the city and have put Wichita into the spotlight as potential host city for Skate America and the United States Figure Skating Champions, which were just on this past weekend. Both of these events are televised. But we cannot host these events if our figure skating club is not strong, if we do not have a Zamboni that works, or if routine maintenance is ignored. We need a management company that cares about the facility and works with its user groups. In January of 2020, while we were hosting the Synchronized Skating Sectional Championships, 2 teams of approximately 20 skaters were kicked out of their warm-up room at the Wichita Ice Center by Genesis management, so one person could take a yoga class. Some of these teams came from as far as California. As we all know, there are multiple Genesis health clubs in town at which a person can take a yoga class, but only one facility to host a skating competition. This occurred despite the fact that we had a contract stating this space was going to be used for this event. Good management would have been happy to work with us for that 1 week, considering the event made the Ice Center thousands of dollars. No one disputes that Genesis can manage a health club, but this has not been the case when it comes to the Ice Center. It has been made clear to us over and over that management only cares about the health club upstairs. The Wichita Ice Center has the potential to be one of the best rinks in the country. Our skaters should not be going out of town for lessons, and those that remain here for lessons should not be paying top dollar for entry-level lessons based upon a health club pay structure that does not work in figure skating. Please do not let Genesis manage this facility any longer. 10 years has been enough. And then I made just a quick list of the things that were promised to us. You know, it's great to stand up here and promise money to the Ice Center. That's fantastic. I would love to see them give the Ice Center, but they made so many promises 10 years ago. A skate sharpener. We still don't have anybody that sharpens skates. Our skaters take their skates to Kansas City and pay for them to be sharpened out of town. We were supposed to have frequent user group meetings. When I was president of the Wichita Figure Skating Club, we had maybe one that I had to beg for. Work with the Wichita Figure Skating Club while hosting competitions. I think I made it clear that that did not happen. A skating director. In the 20 years I've been here, I have not seen the facility without a skating director for as long as it has been without one, and no potential to hire one. Maintenance not been kept up, and I know there's others here who will speak about that. I'll just stop because I could go on and get very passionate, but I think I've probably said enough, so thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jolene.
Excuse me. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate your passion on this. Just, Jolene, thank you so much for presenting that. Could you get a copy of the list of the promises that you feel are important? Send them our way. It would be good. It sounds like that stuff would be really good. So
That
if we
is
can-
only the tip of the iceberg on the things that have been promised, and yes, we can get you a list.
Thank you. That'd be very helpful. Thanks.
Thanks,
Who
Jolene.
should I send that to?
Troy.
Okay.
Troy, for the-
Thank you, everyone. And come watch Theater on Ice this June.
Deanna Harris? Dina? Sorry, Dina.
Well, I'm not sure I can follow that. Thank you, Jolene. My name is Dina Harris, and I want to thank you for the people in this room that made it possible for us to speak, and for the Park Commission for listening to us. My family has been customers and volunteers at the Wichita Ice Center for more than 10 years. We are customers at the Ice Center about 6 to 10 hours a week. My daughter volunteers to teach Learn to Skate on Saturdays, and we volunteer to bring events to the Wichita community through the Wichita Figure Skating Club. I am here today to ask the City of Wichita to continue to own and operate the Wichita Ice Center and to make a change in management at this facility. Over the last 10 years, it has been my observation that the Ice Center is managed as a private gym facility first, and as an ice center for the citizens of Wichita as an afterthought. The Ice Center is a valuable asset to the city of Wichita and most of Kansas. There's only one other ice center in Kansas. Over the last 10 years, both the facility and services available to the Wichita citizens has deteriorated. The contract between the city of Wichita and current management is at an end. Please make a change and give the Wichita Ice Center back to the Wichita community. I believe in the Ice Center, and I know ice sports users in Wichita want their Ice Center back so they can once again be users and customers of this facility. We have lost numerous customers and users over the last 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. Robert Burrows?
Hello, my name is Robert Burrows. I'm a member of the Wichita Figure Skating Club and have been for probably close to 50 years. I came to Wichita out of school, went to work for Boeing. There was no ice rink in Wichita at that time, and so since I started skating when I came from Indiana, I ended up going to Tulsa to get skating lessons. And we skated at family-owned ice arenas here for many years. And maybe talk a little bit about privatization. As good as some of those people were, they were not very well organized in how to run an ice rink. And I know some people talk about privatization, but we went through an incredible amount of problems with privatized ice rinks. And particularly if you had a dominant member of the family, when that person died, that rink closed. Or if that person lost interest, the rink was closed. We went through at least a half a dozen of those. And we finally came to the city of Wichita. The skating community came to the city of Wichita and asked them for help. The city of Wichita has incredible resources. They can do things for ice rinks that nobody else has. You got a city staff that's incredible in being able to solve problems and make things work the way they should. There's also been talk about privatization using corporations. So many corporations tend to be a revolving door, particularly when it comes to CEOs. You get a CEO who agrees to buy the ice rink, and once he goes out the door, the new CEO comes in, first thing he does is shut the ice rink down. Again, I still feel that the city government is best suited for running ice rink. It's a quality of life thing for the city of Wichita. You don't know how many people I have talked to who have come to Wichita to work that would not have come here if it wasn't the fact that we had an ice rink. And their kids skated at ice rinks in other cities before they came here. And they came here because we had an ice rink. If we had not had an ice rink, we would not benefit from those people's services to our major corporations. Jolene touched a little bit about the coaches, that it's a major problem. We have a coaching fee structure in Wichita like most other rinks don't have, and that they have to be employees of the Genesis Health Clubs. And then Genesis takes 50 to 55% of their income for themselves. And I don't know how many of you people appreciate family budgets, but most families, their number one concern is put food on the table, put a roof over your head. When you take 50% of their money, who can do that? I've asked so many people outside of figure skating, do you know anybody that works for a company that takes 50% or more of your income for the privilege of working at that company? I have not found anybody that's found anything like that since. I've been skating at the Wichita Ice Center since it opened in October of 1996. I enjoy ice skating, obviously, you can tell. You get a sense of freedom by skating that you don't get any other way. And we worked with the city of Wichita back then to bring the ice rink here as a quality of life facility, that we need to have something that other cities have so that we can bring people here. And the Ice Center really helps to do that. We stopped being a dusty town with tumbleweeds and barking dogs, and we now have a modern facility that brings us up to the same level as any other city. The only thing is, there's no other ice rink with probably, 200 miles of Wichita? I've worked with Rink Management Services since they've been here. They're the most disciplined, one of the most disciplined organizations I've ever worked with. I've been involved in figure skating for 60 years. I've never seen an organization quite like Rink Management Services. They're really good. And I know there's some people feel like we need to really have, local management. But when local management can't do the things that need to be done, we need to look elsewhere. And that's why I think we need to consider Rink Management Services. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. I'm, just for everybody's information, I'm going to start a 3-minute timer here on my phone just so we can kind of stay on schedule. Next one, Lewis. I can't make out the last name. Lombardi, maybe?
Hello, my name is Lou Lombardo. I am the regional manager for Rink Management Services. In 2010, in March, I moved here to Wichita, and then when Genesis took over the contract, I was the general manager at the time. When Genesis took over the contract, I was asked to move on within the company, so I moved to Michigan, become a regional manager. But during that same 10-year period, I've stayed friends with the majority of the youth hockey and the figure skating community here. We're excited to come back and be part of Wichita again. Myself as the regional manager will ensure that items get done. It would be a personal thing against me if it's not, because of my friendship with so many members of the skating community here. So I look forward to working again with everyone and creating new inventive ideas and growing all the programs.
Thanks, Lou. John Ford.
All right, first of all, thank you for allowing me to speak. First, I'd like to say that I was thankful to be part of the RFP process and listen and provide my input on the selection of the management company. I would ask that you please consider going forward with Rink Management, the proposed management company. Genesis has had the past 10 years, and over that time, programming has suffered. The building as a whole has had multiple issues, and even the pro shop has been empty for a number of years. We would have tournaments here. Players would come from out of town, break a stick, and wouldn't be able to buy a replacement stick because our pro shop was empty. I never encountered that during the time that rink management was here running the facility. Genesis originally faulted rink management for lacking the maintenance in the building during their original contract, but knew that rink management could run the programs. Over the past 10 years, Genesis has failed at both of those, failed at the programming and failed at the maintenance. With the help of a lot of volunteers in hockey and figure skating, we've seen a growth in the youth hockey. But again, that is from the volunteers, not from Genesis itself. Genesis has offered a large cash infusion, but that doesn't solve the programming issues. And if they're willing to put so much money in, there's got to be money coming out of it. And so why would the city not take that money back? They've shown very good examples and proof that they can not only, RMS has shown very good examples and proof that they can not only grow the program, but also maintain the facility. They have a good track record running other facilities, maintaining ice, and doing what they do best. On that note, we also have that billboard up right over Kellogg that is great for advertising. If you ever drive by it, very little is advertised for the Ice Center. It's all for Genesis Health Clubs at Central and Rock or Genesis Health Clubs classes. I originally started that change petition on change.org and got over 3,600 signatures requesting change of management from Genesis to rink management. There's a lot of dissatisfied people with Genesis management right now, and they would really like to see a change. You mentioned that RMS is not local, but what has local benefited us lately? I mean, the income that comes into the city still stays at the city. So the only thing we're losing is the management fee. Genesis has tried local, and local's failed. So my proposal would be that we continue with the proposal of rink management and give them an opportunity to grow the program and grow the facility. Are there any questions?
Any questions for John? See none.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Gifford.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Gifford. I'm here on behalf of the Wichita Youth Hockey Association. First of all, I'd like to thank Troy and his staff for engaging the stakeholders in this process. As any business owner knows, engaging your customers and stakeholders and keeping them happy is a key to your success. WIHA is a 50-year-old not-for-profit organization with 160 skaters and 50 volunteers. Those skaters are there at least 2 nights a week, some more. 80% of those skaters are under high school age, meaning that they have a parent, guardian, or sibling bringing them to the rink. So think about the traffic that brings into that facility, as well as food and dining. Beyond that, we host tournaments and games. In fact, this weekend we have 8 visiting teams from 4 different states. They'll be here Friday through Sunday. Again, shopping, dining, and hotels. Our high school team hosts 6 weekend games. We play on Saturday night and Sunday morning. Again, shopping, dining, and hotels. I believe during our season from October to mid-March, we are the single largest consistent revenue stream for the rink based on ice fees alone. RMS, they are experts in rink management. They operate over 50 rinks across the United States. Genesis is here local. They are experts in fitness centers and tennis courts. I believe they are motivated by the current location and not the ice facility itself. They, in the past, have demonstrated their inability to hire, retain, or train ice experts. The exception to that is Sean O'Reilly, who they've hired on as a hockey director. He has been nothing but a huge advocate for the Youth Hockey Association, and we thank him for that. Again, I implore you to go with the recommendation of Rink Management Services. Again, it is a quality of life item for the city of Wichita, and as the city continues to invest in the riverfront, this can be a great asset there as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Darren Hobkirk.
Hi, my name's Darren Hobkirk. I'll keep this real short. It's interesting listening to that Genesis wants to invest over $500,000 into the rink when in the past 10 years you haven't invested in it. There's outlets that the cords fall out of, and we had a meeting months ago that talked about that, and they said, oh, no, we'll replace those. And you walk by and the water fountain doesn't work. Oh, just plug the cord back in. I mean, it just falls out every once in a while, but, we get used to it because that's what we've come accustomed to with the current management company. And it just gets old. I mean, you walk in and during some of the figure skater events, the big figure skater events, there's mold on the inside of the building and the outside of the building. So aside from the chiller, we had problems with the dehumidifier inside. And I mean, mold, the whole building should have been shut down. But you know what? That's what we've been accustomed to because that's what's been allowed. So regardless of who we use, I mean, I think just get someone in there that knows what they're doing. So Genesis just isn't the company. Thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Jason?
I'm not going to be as long-winded as some of the other folks. My name is Jason Fortin. As a parent of a current hockey player, a former coach for that same student, as well as my younger child, and a former player, I can tell you, over the last 10 years that we've been in the facility, the most maintenance I've actually seen within the facility has been after the Youth Hockey Association went and did the Craft Hockeyville fundraiser and participated with that and got second, third place. I guess it's irrelevant at this point which one it is. We didn't get the $100,000 for the facility, but $10,000 in equipment from the Players Association and $10,000 for whatever to be used was, generated because of the support for the hockey parents. But as a player, I can tell you, and as a coach, when we're out there and we're having kids get on the bench, and like I said, until the Craft Hockeyville thing happened, we're constantly having to tell kids, be careful, the mat's loose there, you might trip, or there's a hole in the floor here that still hasn't been fixed in 2 years, or watch your step because if you step on this metal, you're going to dull your skates up and then you'll get them resharpened at an expense to your parents. So really we haven't seen a lot of maintenance on the facility in the last 10 years until recently. And another thing, as a parent of a travel hockey player, we go to various facilities throughout the U.S. We've been to Colorado Springs, St. Louis, Dallas, Omaha, Lincoln, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, all these different places. And one thing we notice when we go to there is how the rink itself manages and gets involved with the community to try to promote ice sports, whether it be hockey, figure skating, speed skating, whatever it actually is. When we first started, I had to find out the hard way, well, how do I get started? Oh, we got to learn to skate. Well, what does that entail? Well, what's after learn to skate? And who says when my son can progress to the next level? It would be nice for the management company or any management company to do that. I haven't seen Genesis do any of that in the last 10 years that we've been part of this organization. Personally, I would recommend that the council adopts the proposal for RMS. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Janie Byers.
Okay, I'm kind of hitting strongly on a lot of the things that have already been set up here. But, obviously, ice hockey, figure skating is not one of your more conventional sports that's here in the Wichita area. So bringing in a company that understands how to take care of a facility for a non-conventional type of sport is very important to the city and very important to the facility itself. I would say 10 years ago I was supportive of bringing in a local company and Genesis taking over, but I think they've also shown over the past 10 years that they don't have the knowledge to maintain it the way that it needs to be maintained. I will say that since the petition was started and the user groups have come together to speak out and express some of our frustration a little more loudly to the city and to people that can actually make changes, the Stevens have tried to come through and with some of the promises that they've had, but I also feel that they're just not experienced enough and they don't have the knowledge to run the facility the way that it needs to be done. They've shown over the 10 years that they're not able to do it. I will say that both Brian and Sean have been great assets. I would recommend to RMS that they keep both of them on staff for as long as they're willing to stay. They've both done great things and they have improved the line of communication between all of the ice hockey user groups, and they're doing their best to work with what they've got. But I do feel like changing the management company is definitely in the best interest of the ice rink and the user groups. Thank you.
Thanks, Janie. Tony Reese? Good. Nicole Collignan?
Good afternoon. I am Nicole Collignan. I have a daughter who is a freshman in high school. She has been engaged in figure skating for the past 8 years. And over that time, we have seen a significant decline in the figure skating program offered at the Wichita Ice Center under Genesis management. The goal of the Ice Center is to provide the public with an opportunity to enjoy ice activities such as hockey, figure skating, and public ice. A management company, as Genesis is, their role is to provide the best user experience to ensure the facility is used to the best of its ability. I can speak on how their management pertains to figure skating, and they have failed. I'm going to focus on one area in particular, and that is the coaching for figure skaters. When my daughter started skating 8 years ago, there were numerous coaches to choose from, and high qualified ones. Genesis implemented a fee structure which simply made it unfeasibly financially for coaches to dedicate their livelihood and time to the next generation of our skaters. Now, we have one qualified coach, a couple of high school coaches, a couple of college kids in our area to coach. They are not highly qualified. As a result of the poor program Genesis has created, I personally, along with my husband, travel to Oklahoma City weekly for coaching. We travel to Las Vegas, to Minneapolis, and everywhere in between to receive that coaching. Unfortunately, Genesis has created a reputation for Wichita in the skating community as the last place anyone wants to move to coach. The Ice Center has not had a fully dedicated skating director since Mariel Chambers left in October of 2019. We have traveled throughout the Midwest for skating competitions, and I have personally spoken to numerous coaches about Wichita and are universally told that nobody qualified will move here due to the current management. In fact, we can't even get a high-profile coach to come here to put on a weekend camp because Genesis wants such a large portion of their coaching fee. And these are names such as Saria Bonalé, who's a French Olympian. It is clear that the only way the problem will be solved is through a new management company with new policies that promote a figure skating program that invests in coaches, its skaters, rather than just trying to make a buck off them. And adding on to what some of the others have spoken on, yes, we do travel 6 hours round trip to get our skates sharpened, which occurs once every 4 weeks. Due to no qualified pro shop workers and no merchandise, we travel to Colorado Springs to get figure skates and blades, or to Omaha, or to Dallas. And yes, I do travel 5 hours weekly for a highly qualified coach. And thank goodness for COVID, because some of that is offered now via FaceTime. So hopefully you make the right decision and go with a new management system.
Thanks, Nicole. I believe that is everybody who signed up to speak. If there's anybody that would like to share their thoughts, or if I'm missing anybody, I'll give you a chance here. Going once, twice, sold. Bring the discussion back to the bench here. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know, it's not very clear what people are thinking. I don't know, I gotta.
We can talk some more.
We could, obviously. I just wanted to say thank you for the passion that everybody has shown, and of course, a very important issue, quality of life, family life, health and wellness, all that stuff. I want to know what's going to happen in the actual facility with the space that's currently being used for a health club. Is there discussion about what can be used for that? Is it going to go back into ice sports? What's the plan there?
So there's several options that we're looking at. It could be leased to Genesis. It could be run by RMS. We could find another company to operate it. Those are all options. It's important revenue for the facility, and each one of those would require a really good contract, similar to what we're talking about now, a contract that would be very transparent, that would hold them accountable, would share costs of the facility. So those are all things that we would be looking at.
And the sign that somebody had mentioned, I would assume that would change.
Yeah, it would no longer be a Genesis facility.
Right.
So yeah, that would definitely be changing.
Thank you.
Troy, I got a question. So one of the points is that it'll be almost, I guess, my question is how quickly, assuming that we move forward with RMS, are we able to bring them in and then take over the facility to ensure that programming continues as scheduled?
So this is one of the big challenges. So we're going to take it to council. If you guys approve this and moves forward, we'll take it to council next week on Tuesday. That's the 18th. The contract finishes on the 24th. So we would be working with Genesis and RMS that week to start working on the transition. The whole idea is not to lose any programming or keep the facility open, but I am prepared to see if we might need to close for a little while, for a day or two, or maybe it might be, we open up for some of the programming. We'll figure it out. But we'll work with the stakeholders, we'll work with the transition team, because we need to be fair with both. Both with Genesis has put a lot of time into the facility. We want to make sure that it's a good transition and that we're taking care of our customers.
And then has RMS expressed any interest in managing the other spaces outside of the ice rink?
It could. This is the first step, is we want to make sure that this is even available to move forward. And then as we do that, we will address the fitness center area after that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hey, Eddie, is it clear to say that no one is here for Genesis?
And we've got Brian here. Yeah.
Brian and Sean are here.
But you were for Genesis? I didn't hear you speak. I did hear Brian speak, but.
I'm here supporting Brian. I'm the hockey director. My name's Sean O'Reilly.
Right. But, okay. Huh? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I appreciate my name being mentioned as well.
Well, I mean, certainly I want to be respectful to the selection committee that unanimously selected RMS. These guys are volunteers. I don't know who was on it, but certainly they would be stakeholders within the ICE community. They come in and give valuable time for us as well as staff, and certainly wouldn't make much sense for us to divert from that path, in my opinion.
I'd make a motion that we move forward with the recommendation from the committee to adopt the management service agreement and authorize necessary signatures.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Certainly want to thank everybody for coming out and speaking their mind. This is it's a great benefit to our community and us as park board members that we have an invested community, whether it be ice, golf, parks, programming. So certainly great to hear from everybody. Thank you.
Thank you
I
all.
just want to add that these type of decisions aren't taken lightly, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. This actually started way back in the summertime while we're creating a request for proposal, trying to get all the standards in place. And we're under the gun right now, trying to get everything done to make sure that we have a smooth transition. So staff has been really working hard on this. And so they're trying to be, and we are, I think, being responsive to the needs of the community, our stakeholders, and our users. So I appreciate the staff. One in particular is sitting right over here that's really helped on the contract. Jay worked really diligently on the contract and has been working with the attorneys from RMS on this. And he actually was on vacation and was working on some of it on his vacation. So I appreciate it, Jay. So this is a very important and very serious topic, and something that we always look to try to make things better. And the way we want to work on this is we really appreciate all the work that Genesis has put together to run the ice rink. And if this keeps moving forward and goes through council, we have a lot of responsibility to take care of, and we have huge expectations of RMS. And we are working on the contract and working on ways to make sure to hold them accountable, and we'll have good communication with them. In the past month or so, actually it's been almost 2 months that Lou and I have been communicating, talking about this. He's been extremely responsive, and I have a lot of appreciation for his willingness to work hard on this project. And also want to share, Brian has done a great job with the little resources that he has getting thrown into this. And he and I have also had really good communication, so I appreciate that as well. So, thank you.
Thanks. Golf management service update.
It's going to get empty. You don't want to listen about golf?
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, if you guys want to leave, this is the time to do it.
Golf is tons of fun, guys. Come on.
It is fun.
I mean,
I'm good at losing golf
should have been
balls.
here last
That's
time.
for
It
sure.
was, you guys were easy compared to last one.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I did go try to turn the heat down.
Thank you. God,
I thought it was just the people or something. I don't know. People are
I
all.
thought you were trying to sweat us up.
Most everybody's already left, but for the record, Mr. Griffith had sent me an email, and one of the things that was really interesting, he made some proposals and ideas of equity in regards to sports. So figure skating is heavily dominated by female. Hockey is heavily dominated by male. He wanted to come up with some ideas, or at least share that thought of some more equity in regards to male and female participation within the sports, specifically over at the ice rink. So I wanted to put that in the record, because that's going to be something I'm going to be sharing with RMS and expectations. Okay.
Just really quick, was there any response from the committee of any kind about that use of space? Had they given any input about what they would like to see in the facility that's not there now?
So through some conversations, and this goes over months and years, so Genesis is running it as a health club, and they have a membership. The daily fee is really, really high. I don't know if I can't remember exactly, but let's just say it's like $15 a month, or $15 a day, okay? So if you wanted to use it for a day or two, it was really expensive to do so. And so they never really reached out to the stakeholders and found a way to incorporate them into the facility, into the fitness realm. They could have done, hey, let's do some speed skating fitness classes. And let's have our trainer work with the hockey players to see if we can get them more stronger and flexible in their endurance better on the ice rink. Those things never happened. So it felt so separated. And this is the feedback I'm getting from them, okay? So it was definitely, hey, this is the Genesis side, and this is the ice side, and nothing that really kind of crossed over. So as we move forward, that space is set up really nicely as fitness with the weights and all the cardio equipment and whatnot. Does it have to be that? No, it could be something else. It doesn't have to be a fitness center. So that's always something to think about. There's opportunities here to think outside the box.
I'm just curious, what's the ballpark square footage? We're talking about a large, I just didn't realize it was so completely separate. Like, I would have thought there would have been some kind of integration and not just a Genesis. But, I mean, this is a large space is what I'm assuming.
So we measured it at 7,500 square feet.
Oh, wow.
Small for a fitness center. But I think what Genesis is really, I shouldn't speak for them, but I think they really wanted to see a downtown presence, and I think this was just something as an add-on to all the other opportunities where you can work out.
Got it.
Troy, who, was that space, that 7,500 square feet or whatever that gym area is, that fitness center space is, was that already a part of the facility or was that added on at a later date?
No, it was part of the building.
So,
And many years ago, I think that area was part of a restaurant or not even used. It was somewhat vacant.
okay. And then the equipment in there, was that, like, is that the parks?
No, that belongs to Genesis.
Okay.
So if they will not be operators, they'll take that equipment. And,
Sure.
and if there's somebody else to operate it, they'll bring in their own equipment.
Okay.
Troy, can I speak to this a minute?
Yes.
In the latest iteration of drafts that have been coming back and forth, rink management has been very clear that they want to reserve the right to subcontract out to other individuals the operations of both the concessionary bar area and also the facilities upstairs. So I think what you can anticipate is that the use of that area is not going to be limited by the rink management skill set.
You know, I think that kind of where my mind's going, the reason I'm so focused on is, I mean, we've got a lot of development that's going on with the stadium right there. There's just a lot of potential that, I mean, listen, 7,500, that's a small fitness center, that's a big nightclub. I don't know, like, what are you going to do with 7,500? There's a ton of space that you could use for whatever you want to do it with. I think, of course, having it with ice programming would make the most sense, but whatever, I think thinking outside the box, you know, good opportunities for
It's
using
a
that
rubber
space.
floor, you can't.
Is
do much
this-
ice.
Yeah.
Do other institutions exist, like First Tee, you know, similar to what we did with parks where, you know, they're at MAC? Is that a space that we could get creative with and tap into some of these other groups that exist?
So one of the things that's really beneficial about this, the setup of using that space, is the revenue to pay for the overhead and the utilities. Okay, so over at MAC, there's grass. There's not a whole lot. Well, there is obviously water and maintenance and whatnot, but not nearly like you would have all the utilities, expenses, and insurance, all the things that go with running a facility. So, you know, having a nonprofit use that space, that could work, but it just depends on what the arrangement is. But ultimately, just like everything else, whether it's striker, whether it's golf, whether it's the baseball stadium, the least that the city has to put money into it, the better. And so trying to find a way that brings in revenue, and that's one thing that we're going to talk a little bit about, is being creative and finding different ways to bring in revenue. There's some other ideas that we're already talking about in regards to special events and renting space to different type of user groups for the ice rink to bring in more revenue.
Maybe rink management can move their corporate offices there.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Sold.
What happens to Thunder? Are they gonna keep their office in there? Do they
that's
pay
a good
rent
question.
in there right now?
So we're negotiating that right now. We want to continue to have a relationship with them. We want them to stay there. They're obviously going to need to continue to use ice space because ice time because they need to practice. So it's they're a good renter and they've been in that space, and so yeah, we're hoping that they'll stay there. We're making
Have
an
they been paying rent?
They've been paying, as far as I know, what I know, that's my understanding.
Cool. All right. Anything else? We'll email you if anything comes to us.
That works.
Golf management.
All right, so an update. Hopefully, when we have the golfers here, it'll go this smoothly. But next month, we'll be bringing golf management to the park board on, I think that is the 13th?
Mm-hmm.
And then the following couple weeks, because the following week it's during a workshop, so we'll be taking it to council on March 1st. So that's kind of the timeline for that. I'm going to be working with Jay again on developing some more contract language. If I don't survive March, you guys just come visit me, come visit my grave once in a while or something. But it's been crazy. There's just been a lot of work going on. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. So far, we have some pretty good foundation on the agreement with Kemper, and we're going to continue having some negotiations back and forth with Kemper, and we will take a lot of that high points to the Golf Advisory Committee. I think we have a meeting with them on the first week of February. So that's kind of the update where we're at.
Cool. Any questions with that? Golf Advisory Committee did meet last Thursday virtually. With all the COVID stuff going around, we kind of made a game time decision to move that virtual just for everyone's safety. So if you want to watch that, I believe that's on the website. So. Okay. If there are no questions, we can go to the finance update.
I actually do have a question. If we're on, is this under this section or is this later?
Golf update.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Is in-
I think Emma was online.
No, there's nobody online.
There's nobody online. Okay, let me see if there's a PowerPoint, and I could probably.
I was gonna say, we've got a PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm on the line right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Emma,
So
I
you
didn't
want
see you join.
updates?
The walls are talking. Voice of God.
Voice of God.
Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, so can I start now, or are we waiting on something?
Yeah, go ahead, Emma.
Okay, let me get my headphone on. As far as overall financial update goes, I don't have any new updates because we had the November data at last board meeting, and December is not closed yet, so I don't have new updates on that front. But we did a little bit update on JEC regarding some expenses has occurred, and they got really good feedback. Seems like it was really informative, so Troy asked me to present the PowerPoint to Park Board as well. I'm going to start with just general updates on golf, which we did do last month, but it will link together with the overall presentation. As far as revenue goes, by the end of November is about 4.8, like we talked about revenue, and expense is about 3.8, and give us net P&L about $1 million. And then we went through expenses breakdown last time as well. And then the same number presented last year on year-to-date by end of November, compare year-to-year. 19 was negative, almost $500,000. And then 2020 was 468 by November. And then 2021, it was about 1 million, like we discussed. And that tie into my next data presentation. I'm going to show Excel spreadsheet. Let me try to blow this up. As you can see, okay. Okay, so the question was asked, how do we spend on different repair and maintenance projects in golf? A couple of things I put together. One is how much we have spent from golf funds. So it's about $947,000 and some change. $205,000 comes from actual, and $432,000 comes from encumbrances. We have about $310,000 in the planning as well. And then we also want to mention about $201,000 was spent on tree contracts on removal. That actually paid out Forestry, but it did benefit golf as well. And I think because I can't remember it was golf or Park Board asked questions, but just clarify, because we talk about how forecast and planning on where the net position is for end of year. Something to put into consideration is we have things has occurred, product has been delivered or services has been provided, and that becomes the actual, which is where the 205 comes from. And that's when I present P&L, I only use actuals, because as far as the encumbrances goes, we have a requisition appeal out there, but until the purchase is done, we don't consider it to be part of P&L because it hasn't occurred yet. things could happen potentially. And that's pretty standard practice in finance as well. And keep in mind, a lot of the repairs we did, the pump and different mowers for different mowers that's in actual encumbrances, we did purchase a month or 2 months ago. However, because the back order, we haven't received a product, which means this is why we haven't paid for it yet, and that might have impact on the net P&L forecast because we weren't foreseeing that those are not going to be paid by the end of end of December. And as far as planning goes, this one was in requisition last week, so there's a chance it might become encumbrances now. But there's also a 280,000 planning. I think David or Troy said is in Mac Golf Course. I have a little document David put together. Let me see if we can find it now. That I can share with everyone as well. But it's a contract we have with MEKC, I think, the engineering company. Will do the $280,000 worth of work on Mac. So that's a little more information regarding multiple major improvement we have done through last year and 2020.
All right, so Emma, they can't see the spreadsheet.
Do you guys have questions on this?
What Emma's describing and talking about is, one thing I've been bragging about is we've been putting money back into the golf courses. And we put roughly over $1 million, actually $1.2 million back into the golf courses, including...
Hello?
Hey, Emma, can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Emma, can you hear us?
Okay.
All right.
Right.
So put over about $1.2 million back into the golf courses.
Penny, I think you're muted. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Check Teams, you might be muted.
I'm talking to myself again.
We are muted.
There you are.
There we go.
Hey, can you hear us, Emma?
Can you hear us now?
Yes. Did
Okay.
you guys hear my presentation?
Yeah, we heard the presentation, but we
Okay.
didn't see the spreadsheet. But I'm explaining the spreadsheet to them. So,
Oh, yeah.
Here we are.
yep. So what Emma was explaining was we put over $1.2 million back into the golf courses. Over $200,000 has been part of a tree contract to remove trees and stumps. We've also been working, can you just go to, there you go. Yep. So here we have, the total amount is 1.1, almost 1.1 and a half. So these other funds is 200,000, that's over here on the right-hand side. That's the tree contract. And then the other three areas, we've had planning costs, we've had encumbrances and actuals, working on pumps, replacement of the roof and the pond over at McDonald. Also the HVAC over at Tex. The roof is over at Tex. And then also purchasing some mowing equipment. So the Golf Advisory Committee wanted to see the actual numbers and the actual amount. And so we provided them this report. So if you click on actuals, Emma?
Yes.
So here's a listing of a lot of different items that were already spent on putting back into the golf courses. Primarily, we're talking irrigation work as well as a couple of the pieces of equipment that we purchased. Go ahead and go to encumbrances. So these are the expenses that we've encumbered, but not necessarily have completed the work yet. So we have over $400,000 worth of work that's going to happen, or actually we're going to receive. I think it was, if you look at this line item number 5, the grounds masters, 130,000. We have not received that yet, but we've already contracted for that. So once we get delivery, then we release the money. So we know that it's coming. And then planning, if you could click on that. So built into the MKEC That's the work that's happening over at McDonald for the pond and the bridges. So that money has already been encumbered and it's planned for, and we're going to, once it's executed, we'll have that project done. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Okay. All right. Any questions on either one of those?
Again, I gotta say, excellent work to the staff at achieving these numbers. These are incredible. Special thanks to the pandemic for all that as well. But for the staff for managing this so well. But understanding that we are in this crazy time with the pandemic, and more than likely, when one day this is not going to be like this, we're not going to have this kind of revenue in there. Is there any other deferred maintenance that we've not looked at, things that people have said, God, I wish we could take care of, and if we've got this buffer in our budget? And I just wanted to open that up. That's a very broad thing. I'm saying system-wide, if things that were, because we are in a time right now that's not going to be like this forever. So
a couple things. Because we're in COVID doesn't necessarily mean that we're bringing in more revenue. Actually, it's costing us money. But to answer your question twofold in regards to golf, yes, we still have probably about $10 to $12 million worth of deferred maintenance that we need to take care of. And chipping at it at $500,000 a year, $1 million a year will help. But what really needs to happen is there needs to be some huge infusion of capital into the whole system, into golf, okay? And we've talked about that, and that's something that needs to happen, and we just need to keep working at convincing our finance department, convincing the city manager, and convincing the council to make that happen, okay? And then in regards to Parks and Recreation, we've gone through an actual evaluation of our facilities, and the deferred maintenance is in, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of needs that we have. When we're talking about lighting systems, parking lots, roads, buildings, and then equipment to go with all that. So again, we work at it as much as we possibly can. This past, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, it was back in December, the last council meeting in December, we roughly got about $525,000 to address 5 or 6 different items. One of them was a parking lot. One of them was FF&E items for O.J. Watson. And then whenever we get little pieces, we work on it and we make it happen. But it's also scaled to the amount of staff, also scaled to the amount of budget, also scaled to the amount of support that we get. Just throwing money at it is never going to be the solution. We need to do this very strategically and think about how we're going to do this, because if we get millions of dollars, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen right away. So you have to ramp up staffing, you have to ramp up support, and put in a whole plan together for that. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, what I've been hearing is the folks saying, like, golf is experiencing tremendous, pandemic-caused golf to explode because it's a safer activity. But you're telling me, in fact, our department, the park department is not seeing overwhelming success across the board. That I just want to make sure I'm not seeing a disconnect here that I'm not recognizing. 2 things.
Golf.
Yeah.
The reason why we have $1 million on the bottom line is because we're lacking staff. And we are going to change that next year. We're going to probably spend another $500,000 on staff. So one of the reasons why we were able to have a stronger bottom line is because we, first of all, had a hiring freeze. Then we couldn't hire people, and it's just a very lengthy time to hire people. Now we're fighting with other folks to try to recruit people. Mm-hmm. So the perfect storm happened where getting people on board just was not happening very quickly. So that's the major goal for next year, is to hire staff, take care of all the irrigation problems and issues, and you saw that there was some money being spent there, and then replacement of equipment. So those are 3 major goals for next year. And that's what I shared with the Golf Advisory Committee last week.
Gotcha.
In regards to parks and even recreation centers, we are experiencing a lot more usage. And we've seen that because there's more trash, there's more vandalism, there's more requests for using our facilities. That takes staff to make all that happen. And we're not staffed up for that. We don't have the budget for that. We don't have the infrastructure to support all that. So again, it's not just you snap your fingers and you say, oh, this is going to happen if we throw some money at it. You have to be very strategic. Then you have to grow with the demand. And so that comes from planning, coming up with vision, putting in documents in place, and working with the council and working with other user groups within the community to come up with a holistic plan and vision for Wichita. And that's something that we need to work on.
Definitely appreciate that. That makes sense. I get asked about these numbers, so that helps me go back and say, listen, folks, it's not just about that big number at the bottom line. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Anything else for Troy or Emma? If not, we can move on to the communication update.
So I don't think we had anything that was involved or actually moved up to city manager or council, other than the items that we've been really focused on, which is golf and ice rinks. So appreciate your time today about the ice rink. The next one is going to be golf. I'm going to do it very similar, where once I get some more talking points and the highlights, I will make sure you guys get that. It's going to probably be the same thing. I'll bring up a PowerPoint with the recommendation, answer as many questions as I can, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of golfers to ask questions as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Social media?
I don't have anything for that. But I take that back. We did have a really good meeting with the Wave yesterday. God, it all kind of blends in. And we were pretty excited that things went well with the Wave, even though we had COVID. But we're going to work with them again next year, providing events, and work with them on maximizing a lot of exposure on social media. So within, I think, an hour of that meeting, Reggie emailed, put our social media team folks together, and already starting to communicate on that. We're working really closely with our communications team. So this morning I did a Facebook Live. I'm sure you guys all watched my Facebook Live. The topic was on the ice rink. And so I think we're going to do that on a regular basis. I can't remember, somebody from the park board made that recommendation. I can't remember who it was. He wears a tie. And so yeah, we're going to use that recommendation to continue our exposure of issues within Parks and Recreation.
Troy, I do have a question about social media, and well, maybe not necessarily about just social media, but how do we use it to share, not just, I guess, do we use it to share like some of the things that Reg is doing at Recs in the rec department, or like to promote different things that are different projects that we're taking on, like, I don't know, like McAdams, or like this park in Delano, right? Like, are we using it for those spaces as well? I mean, I know I follow the social media channels for Parks and Rec, but how are we maximizing the usage of that?
So most definitely, we have the City of Wichita social media and website. They have the Facebook, Twitter.
Right.
We also have the Parks and Recreation Department to do that as well. A good example is we have a website specifically for NAFSCR Park. We have a website specifically for Chester I. Lewis that is giving all the updates on Chester I. Lewis in regards to the construction there. We also have on our website an area that lists all the construction projects and where we are standing on those. So there's a lot of information that's on our website, and there's a lot of information that we put out on social media where we're promoting a lot of different programs and whatnot. So I think we're very strategic with that. Shanna Applehans, along with Megan Lovely and the communications team, they meet I think every 2 weeks and put out a whole social media plan of all the things that they want to put out there. So they do this very strategic, and they go back and ask all the program managers what they want out there. So it's not necessarily me making that decision or Shanna making that decision, but it's actually the recreation staff or those folks that are programming that do that. So, and since we have RMS in the room, and something we talked about was once we get RMS on board, we're going to work with them to promote a lot of the ice rink activities.
Thank you, Troy.
Something that I'd like to see is, and I don't know if this is possible, but kind of the percent difference in our social channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything across all platforms, percent difference in followers. I don't know if we can do that monthly. Maybe it's more of a quarterly thing, but I think that would be something interesting that we can see as a board. And then also cross-platform marketing. So on Facebook, follow our Twitter page and NAFSCR Park page, et cetera.
Okay. Shanna Abelhans loves to do presentations. She'll come up here and talk about that all day long. So there's a lot of metrics that come out of all those social media platforms. And there's things that, how many reaches did you have? How many likes did you have? Beyond all that. And I'm sure you guys recall, I think it was about 3 weeks ago that we had one of our ponies pass away. Mm-hmm. So we shared that on social media. And I'm not sure, but I think it was a record amount of reaches that we had. And it was definitely a huge amount of impressions that were all across Wichita. So.
Excellent.
Yep.
We all love to see Shanna, so I think that would be good information for us to take. So, anything else on social media? Okay. Recreation update, Reggie.
I want to give everyone just kind of a quick update. I know that last month we didn't get an opportunity to give the November, so it's kind of a combination of both November and December, kind of see how we close out the year for the rec division. So I want to give kind of an overview of each of the rec centers. I decided to cover each of them this month to kind of show some of the activity that we have there, some of the partnerships that we're doing in the community as well. And one of the things that we try to do is make sure that we get community feedback and input on seeing how we can make a greater impact in the community on how we can involve them in some of the services that we provide to them and at the different centers itself. So one of the things that Boston location does really well is doing a lot of specialty camps. You'll see that during the month of December, they had 2 camps that were there that field and another camp that was offered because of that, and expanding those services while school time is out so we can make sure that we're meeting the need for those students parents would need services when the school is out during the holiday time frame. Gymnastics has been a really popular program that we have there. We continue to get people in those classes along with wait lists to be able to expand that throughout the year for the demand that we have. Boston is also one of the locations that we have for the tree drop-off and grab free mulch and working with David and his team with getting that in place, and that's going to be there at Boston until the 21st of this month. So Edgemore Rec Center has been really active in the community as well. One of the things that we established was a good working relationship with the VA here. One of the challenges that they had during the pandemic is being able to get some of those veterans out to their locations for some of the programming that they had, with some of the restrictions for the space limitations they had. So we've worked with them internally there at Edgemore to offer that center as a location for them to come out and actually do programming there in the community. So we've averaged about 10 to 15 people in each of those classes, and we expanded to have even a fly fishing class this particular time that is expensive for some of the yoga and some other services that we have. And we actually received an award from them earlier in last year for that partnership as well, and continue to expand that. We've also started doing some cooking classes and things that are on site and being able to use the center for some of those things that we have there and bring in some creative ways to be able to bring in some additional revenue. One of the challenges that we had during the pandemic is that we saw that some of those classes that we traditionally would have larger participation with, we had to reduce some of those numbers just for safety concerns, and some of those things were going outside to Watson Park or more participation that you may see at the golf course with some of those other things. So we've offered some other classes that were smaller classes that we can still generate some revenue to utilize that space, as well as expanding what we do with pickleball that you'll see that's there as the next slide item as well. So we brought on a new instructor for that location and being able to expand that programming there on site, and it has been really well received also. So Evergreen is another one of those locations that we have a lot of community input there and doing things that meet the need for that demographics in that particular neighborhood. So we actually had a Christmas event that was there on site, a drive-through holiday on the 3rd of December, where we were able to get 216 cars that came through there that we gave out candy and other things to some of the community members there, and worked with 10 different organizations to help fund that. So we were able to get that out and provide a need to the community with limited expense for us because of the partnership that we actually had there. Also worked with the Neighborhood Resource Center and the Kansas Food Bank to be able to offer food to over 500 participants there that came on site at that location as well. Again, seeing what the community need is and see how we can work with them to provide those services. A lot of times people think about gym and swim when they go to the rec centers, but we do a lot of things outside of that to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community. So Great Plains Nature Center, I'm sure you guys know that we brought on a new director there, Amanda Leslie, that started towards last year. She's doing a lot of good things there on site. And again, working to see how we can improve the actual location there at the park. I know David and his team is really short-staffed with some of the hiring freezes that we had and getting new people on board. So she's worked really hard with doing a lot of volunteer projects there on site to make sure that we don't neglect what's needed there at that particular location. So this is there at the Nature Center, cleaning up some of those waterways there on site and some of the paths to make sure they're safe and clean for the community to use it. So Linwood Rec Center still been extremely active as well. I'm not sure if you guys saw at council, we were able to secure some funding from Child Care Aware through the state of Texas through the sustainability grant, where we got about almost $400,000 in grant funding to be able to expand some of our programming, make some improvement to our facilities, as well as buy supplies that we needed to be able to expand what we're doing there. Again, this is money that we didn't have budgeted in our system that we're able to look at to expand programs that we have there and make some needed improvements that we need at those locations. Part of some of those projects that we're actually doing there is looking at options for Wi-Fi connectivity, which has been a big need for a lot of those locations for quite some time. Also making some improvements to some of the gym and open space there as well, so we can have additional programming that we can offer there at the location. The rec center there also was used as a polling site during the month of November. Had over 200 people that came out to that site and actually filled out and left ballots there for the voting election time frame. And we try to do some things a little bit differently. And one of the challenges that we had, especially during the pandemic, is with starting new programming and how we get that in front of people to be able to try it. So we worked into our marketing budget to be able to offer some free clinics that we either did at Napshire Park and some of the promotions that we did there on site, or either at the rec centers where people can actually come out and try the program for free. And then we're able to capture them from there to be able to start some new programs at different rec centers, and then we were one of those sites. So Orchard Rec Center continue to be an active site as well. One of the things that they do a lot of is working specifically with our Golden Age Club and doing some of the programming there on site. That's a big demographic that we're trying to continue to offer additional programs to, is our senior population. They were the only site during the pandemic for the New Year's Eve, held a program there and had 88 participants that came out to that New Year's Eve dance that was there. And a few months back, we implemented some safety protocols for COVID that are in place that we limited to 100 people at each of those sites and put in some things with mask wearing, hand sanitizer, packaging, foods, and things like that, so it limited the number of contact with people who were coming on site. So that was really successful. We got a lot of people off of that, giving them an opportunity to have some of that social engagement for those, that demographics that needed being out of the home and being out in the community. Tennis Center continue to be really active. We actually shared with Troy a little bit earlier this that we actually exceeded the revenue goals that we had in place for the tennis center this year. And our goal actually got out above what we had in 2019 before the pandemic. Some of the same effect that we have with the golf courses, that people going more outside in a safer space, so we're seeing more of that with pickleball and tennis. We exceeded that dollar amount that we had by almost $25,000 from 2019 for this year for what we had. So we also increased the private lessons again. That's part of what we were doing there. People feel more safe being in that space outside, using the bubble and using some of those safety protocols that we have in place to be able to use that space. We also, part of that community partnership, you guys know the Rowing Association is there on site, so we work real closely with them to help with their regatta that they have there. And it's another opportunity to kind of cross-promote what we do at the tennis center to a different user group that may come out and use some of our services as well. Watson Park kind of met some of those same increases with being outdoor spaces there. So Tennis for 5 Weeks event was over 1,900 people and $20,000 in revenue within that time frame over a month that we had there. We already started planning for next year, looked at getting what we can do to increase what we're doing there on site to even have more participation for the following year. The season venue that's there on site is almost completed. We've also had 117 customers waiting for tours and things, and that's something that we're going to be looking at getting in place starting hopefully next month when we get a little bit further along. We're waiting on a couple other things that's for the facility to get in. It's kind of backed up now because of some of the shipping delays, but as soon as we get those things in place, we're going to start offering tours and things for the community to get that facility booked. Woodard Rec Center is another location that we've done quite a bit of rentals for basketball teams and other groups that are in the community. You can see that they're extremely active. I think that we have rental groups or programming at the center every night up until probably 10 o'clock each night on site there with basketball to soccer to other things that we're doing there. Angela does a really good job of expanding to doing some other services there on site, as well as using Atwater next door to be able to expand some of those services as well. And they were one of the locations that received that sustainability grant as well. And we're using some of those fundings to be able to go in and put some basketball goals and things there to automate some of the side courts in preparation for the 50-year anniversary that's coming up this August, and we'll be getting some more information out to you guys as well. We've already secured Lynette Woodard, who's going to come on site and do a clinic during that time frame, so we'll have more information as we get closer. Then want to kind of show a few pictures of the actual season venue there. You'll notice that that's the gazebo that was at down in Napster that was restored and put in place there as well. That's going to be a big portion of the attraction there for weddings and things that we have on site. And then there's kind of a walkway view up to the venue itself. And then a couple closer sites that you'll actually see that's there. So there'll be quite a bit of sunlight view that are coming in that area that you can actually see from the outside to get some of the outside light on it. And on the, I guess that would be kind of the north side of the building that's there will be some roll-up doors so we can actually have indoor-outdoor effect where people can actually use that space outside that leads up to the area where the gazebo is as well. And we've already started out for our winter programming. I've already gotten quite a bit of good participation and interest for that, and that rolled out right after the first of the year. And looking forward to planning for the spring as well. And one of the things that we're doing, we brought on the new director for our cultural arts, and we're looking at ways that we can work with her to expand some of the things that we're doing there, raise awareness about some of those programs, and continue to expand and create more opportunities for the community to access the services that we offer. So I'll stand for any questions if you guys have any. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Reggie, thank you so much. First of all, just a comment. I think that we need to have an adult Nerf war or laser tag, program. I think it's a shame that we don't. So that's cool that you have it for the kids, but we need to work on that other part. Second, if there's
alcohol.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Food and beverage is it's absolutely right. You're on to something. So the second point, the thing that I just noticed that caught my eyes is I know a ton of people that would love free mulch. Can we get that on? Talk about social media. Can we get a post about that up? Because that'll go real quick, if we can promote that we have free mulch from the city.
We used to have a mulch program, but it becomes labor intensive to get it delivered. The Christmas tree mulch creates a little bit of mulch, doesn't create a lot of mulch, but we produce a lot of mulch, and we have these recycling places. We try to work with them where we dump it off at. Occasionally, we do deliver some mulch to the schools and that kind of stuff, but it just becomes a delivery nightmare.
Gotcha.
And pickup, and because you need big equipment to load this mulch up and stuff, and so we've kind of discontinued doing our mulch program because we developed these other relationships. Yep.
And with the Christmas trees, it's just kind of, out of necessity with some of those being there instead of them ending out on the roadway or somewhere where people dispose them illegally. David and his team takes it in and make it available in the community to be able to be used for something that's going to be constructed.
There is a drop-off over at the Sedgwick County Zoo area that during the winter months, small firewood is dropped off over there. There is occasional mulch that gets dropped over there. It gets gathered up pretty quickly.
Anything else for Reggie? If not, Troy's got to run here shortly, so I will let him run through the golf update, grounds and revenue reports there, the foundation update, and then his director's update.
All right, so you guys all got the monthly reports for golf. And wow, over 177,000 rounds of golf. I was hoping that we would hit 170, but we went right through that. So I think that is roughly, since 2001, one of the best years that we've had in golf. So it was really kind of great to see those numbers. In December, we really had a lot. Why? Because of the great weather that we've had. So when it comes to golf, you got to have great weather, and when you have great weather, you just get good numbers. So that was the monthly comparison. The next section, the cart rentals. This is for year to date, and we went over $1 million, actually $1.2 million worth of cart rentals. Food and beverage, again, another great year. We surpassed 2020 by $140,000. And then memberships, we always tend to lose some members during the winter months, but as it gets warmer, we're going to see these numbers increase because of the great value of these membership passes. Driving range, again, we added another driving range over at McDonald, which added another $50,000 to this year, and we beat last year's numbers by, what was that, about $30,000 thereabouts. So pretty good, actually about $25,000. Pretty good year, and like I said, it gives us a good bottom line, and that bottom line gives us the opportunity to put that money back into the golf courses. So what we'll be doing next is, it depends on a lot of different situations, because if we end up contracting, there's going to be some expenses that we have to pay staff out. We have to be able to actually start working with Kemper if there's some kind of monetary things that we have to do, like the monthly fees. But once that's done, I can start using that money to make other repairs on the golf courses. If we end up doing this in-house, it's kind of the same thing. I think I shared with you the 3 priorities is hiring staff, making sure we have all of our irrigation repaired, and then actually replacing equipment. Because if we don't have irrigation, we don't have grass. If we don't have grass, we don't have golf. So that's kind of the highest priority right now. Any questions about the golf report?
Just year over year, broad strokes, is this pretty standard? You said it goes up and down, it's cyclical. I mean, is this generally what it's month over month, not year over year compared to other of the charts? Is that generally, it looks like it fluctuates about 50 compared to July?
So again, it's really weather dependent.
I see.
And if you go back and look at years where we've had low rounds, you go back and you see lots of rain.
Gotcha. No, I meant the membership, not the rounds.
Oh, the membership.
Membership
Okay.
of the courses, just real quick.
So yeah, that itself also is when people use the golf courses, is when obviously spring, summer, and fall. you'll see some addition to the memberships.
Gotcha.
We did put a push, and we do this every year for Christmas. Get your significant other a pass or a gift card and that kind of stuff. And we see some sales, but that's just, we know that during the winter months, we just don't bring in a whole lot of revenue. So, but because of the passes, that's another reason why we brought in the passes, because we wanted some more dedicated and sustainable funds coming in. And so that does give us some money, even though they're not playing a whole lot of golf. All right. So we'll do David's park maintenance a little bit later, but the Wichita Park Foundation, I really don't have any kind of updates. They didn't meet last month, but so far, the Plates for Parks is still going gangbusters. So they're making a lot of money with that, and they'll have to start coming up with a good plan this next year on how to start spending some of that money on some of the projects that we want. So, two things in the director's report. We are monitoring COVID. As I looked at it today, Sedgwick County's 14-day average is at 19.5, which is just, and still rising, which I think the rest of this week you're going to see it go up into the mid-20s. So that's going to have a huge impact on some of our programming. Poor Reggie, he's been bragging, and rightly so. We've been doing some great programs, but I think this is going to have an impact on our programming here in the future. I talked to the city manager a little bit this afternoon, and we're going to start looking at just making sure that we're safe, and that might actually mean that we're closing some rec centers or closing some of our programs. Partly also is because we've had a lot of folks out on COVID, so you're exposed, even though you're not sick, you're exposed. There's a 5-day quarantine, which has a huge impact when we don't have a whole lot of staff. So I just want you guys to be aware of that, and if you start seeing or hearing that we're canceling, here's one of the main reasons why, okay? The other thing I really wanted to highlight was because of COVID, we lost our opportunity to go to conference. We had 13 people that were going to go to conference and actually receive some awards. So let's see, Vice Mayor Johnson received an award for being an elected official that supports Parks and Recreation. We nominated him, and he actually won a great award. We also, Claire Wittenberg, she received the volunteer award. She's from District 6, and she worked on the Fresh Air Baby Camp, and so she got a great award. We received a couple other awards for programming. Reggie worked really hard on, he mentioned a little bit about the rowing association, the Wichita Rowing Association, and working with the Wichita crew team or rowing team. They stepped up and put a program together for some young men that needed some guidance, and shared with them a great experience of teaching them how to row. And they got to use those big, giant, long boats, and they actually got on the water. It was really kind of cool to see that. We also, Brian Hill won an award for all of his work last year, and he still has a little bit to do yet. I'm not going to let him off the hook, but going through last summer of opening up all the facilities, all the new changes construction-wise, finishing the projects, hiring staff, making sure our pool is safe. Thank you, Tanganyika. Going through that whole process of the questioning of whether our pools are safe or not. We had to go through that in the media as well as talking to our customers as well. We had a great summer. The numbers weren't as good as we were hoping, and obviously I think COVID had a huge impact on that, but Brian did some outstanding work. So he was nominated and won an award as well. So we also won an award, Brett, from our maintenance. He was nominated, and for all of his work that he does, he works extra hours and always in our special events, setting up events and taking care of all of our maintenance issues. So we had some great staff that were recognized this year at the Kansas Recreation Parks Society annual conference that we won't be at. So we had to cancel our trip. So I just wanted to highlight those items, and I don't have anything else. I'm going to duck out a little bit early because I have to conduct an interview. So.
Any questions for Troy? Thank you.
All right. So David's going to be in charge the rest of the time.
That's dangerous. Yeah, with that being said, let's go straight to the forestry update, David.
So back in December, you can see the Christmas tree there that we lit up there in Napsker Park. And you can see the numbers of our inspections, pruning, tree removals. The bottom one is probably the most important one to look at, and that's the emergency responses that we had to deal with when we had the high winds. They're about mid-December. Cost $11,000 to just try to clean up after that, and that's probably a small number because we're still cleaning up from it. We're still having to work on that. So, but for the most part, the rest of the numbers are pretty normal. Sport activity, we did some tailgate meetings. F&B for tree removal and stump grinding. So we put out that bid. Our thought was once the golf courses are contracted out, one of the things they might want is the trees taken care of because the deferred maintenance on the trees on the golf courses were out of hand. And so I made the conscious effort to say, hey, we have $250,000 worth of contracted dead tree removal and stump removal. Let's just concentrate on the golf courses, get them in a better shape so that when they're taken over, maybe that company won't be calling on us to come and take care of trees all the time. So we actually were able to get a good bid on that. It all came back at about $201,000, and that's going to take care of all 4 golf courses. Not spot on, but it's going to be a lot better shape than what it was. Hopefully make the golf courses safer by doing some tree work. January schedule, of course, we got lots of emergency responses that we're probably going to do. We got inspections, we got normal work. Crews are going to be focusing on tree planting. I think I mentioned the last time we got all of our trees in, so we got about 1,500 trees to plant. We're well short on staff, so we're probably going to have to quit doing the pruning activity and concentrate on planting trees. So most of our crews are going to be going over and planting trees. I've been working with Public Works on getting some of the inmate labor. We're trying to get some inmate labor lined up to come and help with the tree planting. So hopefully we can get 8 or 9 of those guys every day for a month. But COVID is hitting them, and once COVID hits the penitentiary down there at Winfield, they quit releasing them, quit letting them go out. So we'll see what happens, but we could sure use them. Totals for 2021, lots of inspections. We have 3 inspectors. They're out every day going all over the place inspecting trees. We did 7,000 prunings, but that's down quite a bit. We usually hit around the 13,000 mark, and that's just due to lack of staff. And I know you guys are tired of hearing about that, but that's where it falls, COVID, not having people at work. We did a good job of grinding stumps, not skunks, stumps this year. We had a lot of emergency response there for a couple of storms. We still have 2,646 work orders open. We try to tell folks it's 18 months getting to a pruning. So, and you can see our employee count at the beginning versus end. We started the year with 34 and we're down to 25. But we're chipping away at it. Our construction and special projects section, he mentioned Brett Russell being nominated for the Distinguished Service Award in the Natural Resource branch, and he's the guy that's in charge of this group. And so we've replaced the south fence line along the pony yard there at Watson Park, and you can see some bollards along there and some fencing. Completed replacing bollards and cable traffic control in Emory Park. It was getting in bad shape. Installed some snow fence, replaced some pickleball nets. Just going down through there, we did a fair amount of playground repair. Out there at Pawnee Prairie Park, in the bank, we have these kids that keep digging a tunnel. They dig the tunnel back in there, and it's dangerous. And so in that second to the bottom there, we went out there, and to hide the access to it, we put a chain link fence in there, and we tied a whole bunch of brush to it so that we can maybe discourage them from going down there and digging that tunnel, because it creates a dangerous thing. And then we're going to go out and push it in so that the tunnel disappears, but they won't leave it alone, and we keep trying to fix it. We're going to remove some trash receptacles along the fire line in Evergreen Park. So that group of guys, it's a group of about 8 guys, they keep themselves very busy with lots of different projects. Some other stuff that we supported during the month of December, did some work at some of the rec centers, up at the Great Plains Nature Center, basketball goal repairs. You can see the skate park bowl there was really painted up and stuff, a lot of graffiti work. So they support a lot of things across the park system, not just in parks, but at some of the rec centers as well.
David, did that gentleman with the skate community ever get with you about painting a mural or something on that?
No, we have not hooked up.
Okay.
I called him a couple of times and just haven't got a response. I thought of that today sitting here. I thought, man, I need to figure out how to get to talking with him.
Well, if he doesn't, I feel like that's something we should at least explore. Even if it's the park board and us and you doing that together, because it seems like you clean that pool up from graffiti all the time.
Yeah, it gets hit a lot, and over the years we've had some good discussions with some folks, of what they wanted to see, how they wanted to do it, the kind of paint that needs to be used that doesn't make it slick. We have the discussion, and then it never goes forward, and I don't know if that's my fault or what, but.
Is it funding? I mean, because this is something that we could bring up to the Parks Foundation. I mean, they're sitting on a ton of money and they want to put their name on something nice.
A lot of times it is. It comes down to,
Sure.
okay, they want to make some improvements to the skate park and put in some new tricks and that kind of stuff, but to do it properly, it's going to take some engineering, it's going to take some money. Just like painting that, it's going to take, that paint's pretty expensive. So yeah, funding is one of the issues. And we're trying to say, if you guys want to do it, raise the funds, we'll help you do it. But maybe we just need to do it ourselves and hire some people to paint the murals on there and get it going.
Yeah.
So I think I reported last time on this building. It's getting closer. The fence is down. All the dirt work is in place. They're getting very close to, that's in North Linwood Park, the old shelter that got caught on fire a couple years ago. It's finally getting close to being done. I think we'll probably have some kind of a ribbon cutting ceremony or something here in a couple months, probably. My guys, my staff, help with all the downtown holiday decorations, and we've just spent a couple of days, 3 or 4 days, taking it all back down. So The park maintenance guys help with that. We've installed a memorial bench over in Manisa Park. We've done about 12 memorial benches now, and they're anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. So it's become pretty popular. Conducted inventory and inspection of wood park names and signs in all the parks. We're continuing to repair fences and gates at the tennis courts throughout the park system, provide snow and ice removal, continued playground safety inspections, response to graffiti and vandalism. I think I went backwards there, didn't I, guys? So with the park maintenance, they're going to continue winter maintenance items, including woody plant removal out at Proc wetlands. Since it's been dry, we went out and we're trying to mow the big areas that need to be mowed once a year before it gets wet again. It's a good time to do that. Holiday lights are down and stored. Ice snow removal. We're continuing daily maintenance at NASCAR Park. Several new employees training on their CDL licensures and pesticide certifications. So that's kind of what the park maintenance and forestry folks have been doing.
Any questions for David?
Any question? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dave.
I do not have a president's update, so if there's nothing else or nothing that we need to add to the agenda for next month today, we can adjourn.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.